You ever watch someone ruin their entire future in less than 60 seconds? Yeah, I saw it with my own eyes, right there in a marble foyer that cost more than every house I've ever set foot in. And let me tell you, it wasn't an accident, it was pride, entitlement, and the kind of arrogance money can't buy, but sometimes breeds. You know what I mean? It started with a slap, just one sharp, ringing sound in a house built for silence. And that single moment set off a chain reaction so devastating. I swear, nobody could have predicted how fast it all came crashing down. The girl thought she was stepping in her new life as a billionaire's wife. But she didn't know the woman she just slapped was the one person who could decide her fate, and by the time she realized, it was already too late. Vanessa strutted into the Okoro mansion like she'd already won, heels clicking out a bead of victory on stone that reflected back her own perfectly curated image designer clothes, a diamond ring sparkling like she owned the place. Every step saying, "I belong here," even if part of her still wondered if she really did. For 8 months, she played the game, smiling at parties, posting on Instagram, letting everyone know she was engaged to Nigeria's youngest oil billionaire, Derek Okoro. But this wasn't just about social status or a big ring. It was her chance to secure everything she'd ever wanted, to lock in that golden future she'd been chasing since she was a kid, growing up on the outside looking in. The thing is, the house was too quiet, no servants, no celebration. Not even a glass of champagne, just the distant sound of water dripping and the soft, almost meditative rhythm of scrubbing somewhere deep in the house. Meanwhile, Derek watched it all from a hotel suite a few miles away, his eyes flicking between security camera feeds, his heart pounding harder than any boardroom deal. This wasn't business. This was personal, and he trusted his mother's instincts over his own infatuation. See, 8 months is enough to fall in love, but not always enough to see past the mask people wear, so Mama Okoro came up with a test, the kind that strips away all pretense and shows you exactly who someone is when they think no one important is watching. So there's Vanessa, looking for the applause, only to find an elderly woman, scrubbing an already spotless floor, moving slow but with a purpose that made everything else look silly by comparison. The woman didn't even look up, no welcome, no deference, not a hint of recognition for the future lady of the house. And that right there, that's when the real story began. Vanessa's fuse was short that day, maybe because she expected the world to fall at her feet, maybe because for the first time, nobody seemed to notice she was there. Every second the old woman ignored her felt like an insult and affront to everything Vanessa believed she'd earned with that ring on her finger. She tried clearing her throat. She tried a little sharpness in her voice, nothing. Finally, she barked, "Excuse me," like she was calling a dog to heel, but all she got was a calm, steady "Good afternoon, miss," delivered with a politeness that somehow stung worse than open disrespect. You could see Vanessa's face go from entitled to offended to flat-out furious. She demanded to be called ma'am, demanded respect, demanded that the woman stop cleaning and pay attention, but the old woman's eyes stayed steady. No fear, no flinching, just that calm you only get from decades of surviving things worse than a brat with money. Derek watched it all play out, heart sinking, because this was the woman he thought he wanted to spend his life with, and every second, she showed him less and less of the kindness he hoped she'd have. But Vanessa, she was locked in, blind to the cameras, deaf to everything except the pounding of her own need to be acknowledged. When the old woman still didn't give her the deference she expected, Vanessa snapped. Her hand flew out, sharp and hard, and the sound of that slap echoed down the marble halls like a gunshot. For a moment, everything stopped. The old woman didn't cry or shout or threaten. She just touched her cheek, looked Vanessa in the eye, and said softly, "I see." And I swear, those 2 words weighed more than any threat, because they carried the power of someone who's been underestimated her whole life and learned exactly when to show her strength. Vanessa realized too late that the silence after the slap wasn't relief, it was the beginning of a storm, and she just walked into the center of it without an umbrella. The old woman walked away, dignity intact, leaving Vanessa alone with the echo of her own actions bouncing off a dozen polished surfaces, each one reflecting back the worst version of herself. She tried to shake it off, tried to focus on the future, But every step down those golden halls felt heavier, like she was walking through water thick with judgment. That's when the twist hit. Vanessa stumbled into a staff room where two young maids froze mid-conversation, their faces pale as they glanced from their phones to her, and the air was thick with secrets. A newspaper on the table showed Derek and his mother at a gala. The same old woman, dressed now in regal attire, described as renowned philanthropist Mama Okoro. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't a servant she'd slapped. This was the woman who built the house, who made Derek who he was, the gatekeeper to everything Vanessa thought she was about to inherit. Back in the foyer, voices filled the halls. Derek's laughter, family members arriving, the old woman descending the staircase, now dressed in the clothes of Queen, surrounded by staff and relatives who'd all heard what happened. Every eye in the house found Vanessa, and suddenly, she wasn't the future matriarch. She was the outsider who'd revealed her true self, and the walls seemed to close in, turning the mansion from a palace into a courtroom. Derek's voice rang out, warm and proud, until he saw his mother's face, saw the bruise blooming where Vanessa's slap had landed. The story spilled out, Mama Okoro explaining the test, the cameras, the footage Derek had watched in real time, the slap he couldn't unsee. Vanessa tried to explain, but every word only made it worse. Didn't know, I thought she was just... And there it was, the truth everyone already knew. She thought the uniform meant less humanity, that status excused cruelty, that no one would care what happened to someone beneath her notice. The family gathered around their matriarch, voices low but unbreakable, disappointment clear as day. Derek ended it there, pulling the ring from her finger, his love turning to regret as he realized the woman he fell for never really existed. She was just a performance, gone the moment she thought no one important was watching. Mama Okoro delivered the final judgment, her voice steady, her eyes clear. You failed. Not because you didn't know who I was, but because you didn't care who I might be. The engagement ended not with a fight, but with a quiet certainty, the kind that closes doors forever. As Vanessa walked out, every step away from the mansion was a step away from the life she'd built in her mind. The car that drove her away felt less like freedom and more like exile. Inside, the family closed ranks, their love stronger than any outsider's ambition. Mama Okoro touched her cheek, not in pain, but with the satisfaction of someone who knows she's protected her son from a future built on cruelty. The lesson was clear: respect is earned by how you treat those you think can't help or hurt you, and the only real test of character is how you act when you think no one's watching. So, let me ask you, if you had everything you wanted within reach, would you risk it all just to feel powerful for a moment? Would you know the difference between real strength and the illusion of it? And if someone watched a tape of how you treat people who serve you, would they see someone worthy of trust or someone who just got lucky nobody filmed worse? The Okoro family story isn't just about money or marriage. It's about the line between pride and cruelty, about the kind of power that lasts, and the kind that shatters at the first sign of real adversity. If this story hit you, made you think twice about the little ways we test each other, then drop a comment. Where do you stand on respect, on second chances, on what really makes someone family? Share this with someone who needs a reminder that dignity isn't about what you own, it's about who you are when nobody's looking. Because in the end, the only thing that lasts longer than money is the story people tell about the choices you made when you thought no one was paying attention.
Xin chào các bạn, mình là Trinh, mình phụ trách viết content. Trên đây là những công việc của mình, là mình lên mạng xã hội tìm hiểu những video.
Next one? Alright. Thank you, man. Hey, if you guys have any trouble, let somebody know. Please.
After the tree to hold on to.
Yeah, they're